Beautiful Until Death, the tragic story of Agnieszka Kotlarska. A doll from Wrocław. The world of fashion is notoriously cutthroat and fickle. But in the early 1990s, it seemed to be throwing open its arms to a new star from Poland. Agnieszka Kotlarska, a delicate young woman with huge blue eyes and an angelic face, charmed everyone she met. She had natural grace, a quiet elegance, and an extraordinary ability to connect with people. Her looks, reminiscent of a Renaissance painting, seemed to embody innocence and purity. Agnieszka was born and raised in Wrocław, in an ordinary Polish family. Her childhood was uneventful and relatively peaceful. She was a well-behaved and diligent student, loved reading books and daydreaming about the future. In her youth, Agnieszka was rather modest, even a little shy. She never actively pursued popularity or fame. However, her natural beauty didn't go unnoticed, and many predicted a modeling career for her. Her first time on the catwalk was a fluke. She filled in at a local fashion show as a last-minute replacement for a sick model. Her debut went well, and Agnieszka soon received several job offers. But the real turning point in her life came with the Miss Poland contest in 1991. Triumph and global fame. At the age of just 19, Agnieszka took a chance and entered the national beauty pageant, not expecting to win. She simply wanted to test her abilities and gain a little experience. However, her natural beauty and quiet charm won over the judges and the audience. Agnieszka took home the title of Miss Poland, opening the door to the world of fashion. This victory came as a total shock. She wasn't a professional model and hadn't participated in anything like this before. But her sincerity and genuine warmth set her apart from the other contestants. Agnieszka won the hearts of the Polish public and became a bona fide national darling. But her real triumph was yet to come. A few months later, the whole world learned about her when she won the prestigious Miss International contest in Tokyo. Agnieszka became the first Polish woman ever to take home the crown. The judging panel included well-known figures in the arts, representatives from the modeling industry, and journalists from around the globe. Many admitted that there were perhaps even more striking women among the contestants. However, everyone was struck by the charm of the young Slavic woman, her tenderness, femininity, and genuine kindness. Sincerity shone in her eyes, and her smile lit up the room. She radiated positivity and optimism, which couldn't help but attract people. The audience wholeheartedly agreed with the judges, showering Agnieszka with flowers and gifts. Winning Miss International launched her career into the stratosphere. Her photos appeared on the covers of the most famous magazines. She became a sought-after guest at social events and fashion shows. Agnieszka became a symbol of Polish beauty and a source of pride for her country. Taking on the West, the victory was a springboard for a dazzling career. The following year, she was offered a contract with the prestigious Ford agency, based in Paris and New York. The Ford contract opened doors for Agnieszka to the world of high fashion, allowing her to participate in ad campaigns and fashion shows for leading global brands. Her face graced the covers of the best-known glossy magazines, like Vogue and Cosmopolitan, and she worked with renowned designers like Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren. Agnieszka became a highly sought-after model, invited to shoots all over the globe. She worked with the best photographers, stylists, and makeup artists in the world, gaining invaluable experience and honing her craft. Agnieszka quickly adapted to her new surroundings and established herself as a professional and talented model. She was punctual, responsible, and always ready for new challenges. Her strong work ethic and determination impressed colleagues and employers alike. She never complained about fatigue or hardship, always smiling and full of enthusiasm. Despite her hectic schedule and constant travel, Agnieszka remained true to herself. She wasn't conceited, retaining her modesty and kindness, always finding time to spend with friends and family. Her natural beauty and inner peace attracted people to her, and she quickly won the hearts of not only fans, but also colleagues in the industry. For 3 years, Agnieszka made the United States her home. Invited for a long-term contract, There, she immersed herself in the world of fashion and glamour, but never forgot her roots and always dreamed of returning to her homeland. Family and homecoming. Agnieszka's personal life was also thriving. While working in the States, she met Jarosław Ślątek, a Polish businessman who was in America on business. Sparks flew, and they soon tied the knot. Agnieszka found in Jarosław not only a loving husband, but also a loyal friend and partner. In 1994, they had a daughter, Patricia. Agnieszka adored her daughter and tried to spend as much time with her as possible, despite her hectic work schedule. Her family was her top priority, and she dreamed of returning to Poland and living a quiet and peaceful life surrounded by loved ones. In 1996, Agnieszka and Jarosław decided to move back to Poland. They wanted their daughter to grow up immersed in Polish culture and speaking her native language. Besides, Agnieszka missed her family and friends and dreamed of living close to them again. The move back to Poland wasn't an easy decision, considering Agnieszka's successful career in the United States. However, family was more important to her, and she was convinced she was making the right call. A sinister shadow. In parallel with Agnieszka's success story, another, darker story was brewing far from the limelight. Jerzy L., a computer programmer from Wrocław and a graduate of the Wrocław University of Technology, first saw Agnieszka Kotlarska at a local wedding dress fashion show in the fall of 1991, even before she won the title of Miss Poland. Before that, Jerzy hadn't shown much interest in women. He was a withdrawn and introverted man, living with his parents, and, as his mother would later say, interested only in computers and jogging. Jerzy was a typical nerd, avoiding crowded places and female attention. He had a hard time connecting with people and preferred to spend time alone, lost in the world of technology. But everything changed the evening he saw Agnieszka on the runway. Her beauty struck him like a bolt of lightning. In that moment, he realized that she was his ideal, the embodiment of perfection. It was like he woke up from a long sleep and saw the world in vibrant colors. After Agnieszka won the beauty pageant, Jerzy became obsessed with the young celebrity. He found out what school she went to and what bus she took to get there. He began following her, showing up in places where she might be. He collected newspaper clippings with her photos, listened to radio interviews, and dreamed of meeting her. He started writing her letters, pouring out his feelings and confessing his love. He imagined them together, that Agnieszka felt the same way about him. He lived in a world of illusions, divorced from reality. Agnieszka couldn't help but notice that this guy was showing a little too much interest in her. He kept appearing in her field of vision, following her down the street. At first, the young woman wasn't too concerned, since he hadn't gotten aggressive. Once on the bus, he worked up the nerve to talk to her, and they chatted a little about school, mutual acquaintances, and everyday life. The young man even walked her home. There was nothing particularly alarming or suspicious about it, just a chance encounter, a fleeting acquaintance. But for Jerzy, this meeting was everything. He was convinced there was a spark between them, that Agnieszka felt something for him too. He was sure they were meant to be. This chance encounter reinforced his illusions and intensified his obsession. Years later, Jerzy confessed in an interview that he had been madly in love with the girl even then. However, he claimed that he simply wanted to talk to the model, to have a place in her life as an ardent fan, without wanting to possess her as a man or spend his life with her. But it was a pathological obsession, with nothing to do with real feelings. Psychologists would later diagnose Jerzy with erotomania, a rare mental disorder characterized by the delusional belief that someone else is in love with the sufferer. Madness takes hold. Not limited to chance encounters and obsessive letters, Jerzy began to stalk Agnieszka. He showed up near her house, called her on the phone, sent her flowers and gifts. He tried to get her attention any way he could, failing to understand that he was only scaring her with his intrusive behavior. Agnieszka felt uneasy, even threatened. She tried to ignore him, but he wouldn't back down. She told her friends and family about him, but no one took him seriously. They all thought he was just a pesky fan who would eventually get the hint. For Agnieszka, it was simply annoying attention from a fan she wanted to forget as soon as possible. But for Jerzy, her departure was devastating. He felt rejected and abandoned. He couldn't accept the thought that Agnieszka had left him without giving him a chance. The conviction took root that Agnieszka had been stolen from him. After Agnieszka left for the States, Jerzy never stopped thinking about her. He continued to follow her career, buying magazines with her photos and dreaming of reuniting. He lived with the hope that she would return someday, and he could prove his love to her. With each passing year, his obsession grew stronger, morphing into a full-blown mania. He stopped caring about anything but Agnieszka. She became the sole focus of his existence, returning to a nightmare. In August 1996, after 3 years in the States, Agnieszka, now not just a famous model, but a happy wife and mother, returned to Poland with her husband, Jarosław Ślątek, and their 2-year-old daughter. She hoped to start a new life in her homeland, surrounded by loved ones and friends. She dreamed of a quiet and peaceful existence, far from the hustle and bustle of the big city. But her dreams were not to be. Returning to Poland turned into a nightmare for her. The shadow from the past, which had been haunting her for years, caught up with her again and destroyed her life. Learning from the media that the celebrity now had a family, the fan who had been waiting for her back home was crushed, but didn't let go of his obsessive idea. In fact, he now craved a meeting with the object of his adoration even more strongly. A complete mental break occurred in his mind, and his obsession with Agnieszka spun out of control. He lost the ability to distinguish reality from fantasy. He truly believed that Agnieszka was his destiny, and no one should stand in their way. Agnieszka Kotlarska Ślątek, as her name now read, began appearing on television in movies and commercials, and this only intensified the 36-year-old admirer's fixation. Jerzy fanatically read and watched every interview with her. From one such interview, he learned her husband's name. Now it wasn't hard for him to find Agnieszka's address and phone number in the phone book. He knew everything about her. He watched her every move, knew when she left the house, where she was going, and who she was meeting. He lived her life, although she didn't suspect his existence. Jerzy was a shadow, relentlessly following his muse. He had become a real stalker, willing to do anything for his obsession. A fateful encounter. On that morning, August 15, 1996, Jerzy decided that he couldn't go on living without Agnieszka. He decided to go to her house and talk to her, to find out why she was so cold towards him. He naively believed that he could convince her of his love and win her over. He left work and headed straight for Agnieszka's house, consumed by the idea of talking to her. He saw her sitting in the car with the windows rolled up tight. He approached the car. She saw him, but didn't roll down the window. He was deeply hurt. The fan would later admit that he felt like a fish in an aquarium, separated from her happiness by a soulless piece of glass. A thought flashed through his mind that Agnieszka despised him, that she considered him unworthy of her attention. He felt humiliated and insulted. He could no longer control his emotions. He knocked on the window, but Agnieszka pretended not to see him. She was afraid of him, knew about his persistent attentions, and wanted nothing to do with him. Soon her husband appeared. Jarosław knew all too well about the obsessive admirer who had been fixated on his wife for the past 5 years, and he was very concerned. Therefore, Jarosław immediately reached for his cell phone to call the police. This sent Jerzy into a blind rage. He felt doubly wronged. I just wanted to talk, and not only am I being ignored, but they're calling the cops. A complete mental breakdown ensued. He felt that everything was over, that his hopes were dashed. He lost all control. A bloody reckoning. Seething with rage and despair, Jerzy grabbed a knife, which, as he would later admit, he always carried just in case, and stabbed Jarosław in the leg. Seeing this and wanting to protect her husband, Agnieszka jumped out of the car and ran towards the fan. He swung and inflicted 3 precise knife wounds on her. which proved to be fatal. Everything happened in a matter of seconds. Agnieszka didn't even have time to process what was happening. She just felt a sharp pain in her chest and collapsed to the ground. Jerzy froze over her in horror, unable to believe what he had done. He didn't want to kill her. He just wanted to talk. But his obsession and uncontrollable rage led to tragedy. Later in court, he would say, "I wanted her to remember me, for me to become part of her life, even if it was such a tragic part." Passers-by called an ambulance and the police, but it was too late. Agnieszka died at the scene. Jerzy was arrested and taken to the police station. He didn't deny his guilt and confessed to the murder. He spoke of his obsession with Agnieszka and what had driven him to commit the crime. Trial and aftermath. The sentence handed down to the maniacal killer shocked many. The obsessive admirer didn't receive a life sentence, but only 15 years. After the sentence was announced, Jerzy L., leaving the courtroom in custody, shouted at Agnieszka's husband that he would get him next. The court handed down such a lenient sentence to the killer because it considered him to be partially insane at the time of the crime. In other words, in a state of clouded consciousness and not fully aware of his actions. Psychologists would call this a state of diminished capacity. The court took into account the fact that Jerzy suffered from a mental disorder and considered it a mitigating factor. The verdict caused a public outcry in Poland. Many felt that the killer deserved a harsher sentence. The killer served his time and was released after 15 years. Shortly after his release, he committed another assault on a burglar who tried to rob his apartment. This incident only reinforced his propensity for violence and his unpredictability. Agnieszka's husband and daughter, Patricia, immediately left Poland. The father and daughter have remained in hiding ever since, terrified of the psychopath who once threatened to kill them. The tragic death of Agnieszka Kotlarska became a chilling reminder of how dangerous obsession can be and how important it is to recognize the signs of mental disorder early on. Her life was cut short far too soon, but her name will forever remain in the memory of those who knew and loved her. She was beautiful inside and out, and her radiant soul will live on in the hearts of her loved ones. The memory of Agnieszka Kotlarska endures in the hearts of her family, friends, and fans. Commemorative events are held each year on the anniversary of her death, celebrating her life and legacy. Her story serves as a warning to anyone dealing with obsessive attention from strangers. It reminds us of the importance of being vigilant and not underestimating the dangers posed by those who become consumed by someone else's life.